Marcha uchuma germo.
Like from now on.
Okay, ergino chuma ge. MTN competition, and I'll definitely recharge with 49 rands or more and dial star 136 star 2 has to select my town offer for 5 gigs plus 5 gigs plus 30 minutes of 49 rands and stand a chance to win double your airtime. How does it work? Subscribers can recharge with 49 rands or even more in airtime. Exchange airtime for My Town offer by dialing star 136 star 2 hash. Select My Town offer of 5 gig plus 5 gig plus 30 minutes for 49 rands. Take a screenshot and send it to your community radio station. 3 winners per radio station will be selected and announced every Friday. That is weekly. Wait while you stand a chance to win double your airtime. T's and C's apply. Now, this campaign starts from the 14th of July and starts on the 26th of September 2025. 25 minutes before the hour, 8 o'clock, and a very warm welcome to our listeners tuning in to another exciting edition of Plug Graduate right here on TUTFM 96.2, your midweek destination for unlocking the future of work, innovation, and opportunity. Tonight, we then shift our spotlight to a groundbreaking development in science and research training that is set to redefine how young South Africans engage with the scientific world. Joining us in studio or virtually so is Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who is now a senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, who will then join us to then speak about the official launch of the Center of Advanced Training and Innovative Research, a world-class facility that is created in partnership with Thermo Fisher Scientific and the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Now, this facility officially opened today. It then aims to bridge the gap between theory and practice, equipping university students and young scientists with the tools, techniques, and mindset needed to lead South Africa into the frontier of health innovation. We'll definitely be exploring what it means for our students, graduates, and community members. Now, you can take the advantage of the opportunities it brings. Definitely stay with us as we unpack science, education, careers, and definitely the future. Dr. Pritika, good evening and welcome to TUTFM.
Good evening, Polelo. Thank you for having me this evening.
Definitely. And before I bring you in, let me give a glimpse of who you are to our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ramharack is a senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council's Research or Biomedical Research and Innovation Platform, an honorary senior lecturer at the University of KwaZulu-Natal School of Health Sciences. She definitely earned her BSc in Biomedical Science and med in Medical Biochemistry and holds a PhD in Pharmaceutical Chemistry. She leads a dynamic research program focusing on blended wet lab and silico approaches to then drug discovery and chemoinformatics. Her work includes the computational design and molecular dynamics of potential inhibitors against infectious diseases like the HIV, TB, and others. Definitely a very beautiful biography there. A woman of a distinguished hard work. Doctor, let's definitely get into it. I know you might have had a busy day with the launch, but we definitely have to have this conversation. I want us to start it off by framing the vision and even the purpose of the center, because first of all we do understand that this country has faced long gaps in terms of high level scientific skills and lab infrastructure, especially highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to understand what was the main force driving the establishment of the center.
Yeah, thank you for that, Polelo. I think the main aim at this point was during the recent decades, we've established that there are critical gaps within the healthcare sector as well as research within South Africa. And I think since the COVID-19 pandemic, many African countries, including South Africa, have sourced both local and global funding to invest in this infrastructure to address the gaps in both clinical and molecular testing. So based on this, the Center of Advanced Training and Innovative Research, which
Hmm.
is based at the SAMRC offices in Pretoria, aims to upskill postgraduate students and laboratory professionals by providing them with a holistic approach to training. We'll be focusing on hands-on training in
Hmm.
new technologies and applications, as well as laboratory-based management, grant writing, and personal development skills as well. So through the skills and development, as well as capacity reinforcement, CATIR, which is our abbreviated term,
Yeah.
aligns with the African Union Vision 2063, as well as the Africa CDC goals. So I think just to put it in context, our vision is actually very quite clear. We basically want to upskill the next generation of African scientists for
Hmm.
Africa.
Sure. And beyond just being a new institution, the center is then referred to as a landmark moment in terms of local science development. But I want to look into the partnerships, because strategic partnerships can make or break developmental projects. I want to understand how did the collaboration between the South African Medical Research Council, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and the DSTI come into being, and what makes this particular partnership so unique?
Yeah, so we actually had the talk earlier today during our launch, but it was actually through our international liaison, Professor Richard Gordon, who attended a conference whereby he actually presented some of the work done at the SAMRC,
Yeah.
and Thermo Fisher Scientific partners were there at the conference, and they actually approached him to start off this collaboration. And this was 2 years ago. So it has been in a long it's been a long journey of
Hmm.
planning. We've also had the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation come on board, and as our funders, the Department of Health. And during this sort of planning and collaboration agreement, we've now put together a memorandum of understanding that was actually signed in March 2024. And both the parties have agreed to the various entities that will be managing during this program. So I think when it comes to looking at partnerships and collaboration,
Hmm.
having key and strategic partners are extremely important. And sort of not being able, so with the MRC, we have decades of experience in capacity development, especially in previously under-resourced universities. And Thermo Fisher Scientific, for example, comes with a global footprint as healthcare leaders and new technologies and applications, whereas DSTI and DOH are both within the government sector and are able to change policy and adapt funding towards this stream. So I think having clear cut strategic partnerships are extremely important for a successful collaboration.
Sure. And while we're still on that particular subject of, collaborations, let me look at Thermo Fisher Scientific, it being as, a global science leader. I want to understand, if you may, that the specific contributions they are then bringing to the table that South African students will then benefit directly from.
Yes, so Thermo Fisher Scientific is it's one of their first initiatives actually in the African region within this capacity development program. So as a local employer and a member of the community in South Africa, they are able to put these technologies forward for South Africa and be able to eventually offer employment of the competent trainees that come out of our capacity development project and the CATIR program. So I think that's one of the most important aspects. Not only they now involved in training, so we
Sure.
have specialist application scientists that are now going to be trainers in this CATIR program, but we also then have an opportunity for absorption into Thermo Fisher Scientific within South Africa as a whole. So the whole point is we want to retain competent scientists, and we would not want them to go out of the region for training and then
Sure.
be absorbed in other countries. So I think we want to upskill South Africa, and if that means having employment in South Africa, which is one of our biggest concerns at the moment, that is something that Thermo Fisher Scientific can definitely come on board with.
Sure, definitely understandable. And thank you so much for then mentioning that point that we need to bring in all the work to the country, because research needs to be relevant to local context and not just the global trends. And I wanted to ask you, when you were still mentioning to that, or on that point, to then say, how is the center going to ensure that its work is then responsive to South African health and developmental needs?
Yeah, so I think again, we keep on using the COVID pandemic as an example, but we very well understood that we were underprepared for the COVID pandemic. So pandemic readiness within South Africa is something that we need to be very concerned about. There's been numerous initiatives that have taken place. One of our sister programs that we have
Yeah.
actually works within the biomanufacturing training. So looking at vaccine development and biopharmaceutical development and training students for these particular processes. What we now realized is that eventually industry gets saturated. So if you look at in a South African context, and if you're looking at biomanufacturing, there are only so many biopharmaceutical companies that are based in South Africa, and therefore employment and the industry does get saturated with staffing. So I think upskilling academics is something that we can continuously evolve, and by training sort of postgraduate students and technical staff, they are able to translate that information to the younger generations, to honors students, graduate students, so that when the time comes or when we need to be pandemic ready,
Yeah.
it's already, these skills are already in place and
Yeah.
translated to the younger generation.
And thank you so much for then, highlighting the COVID-19 pandemic, because it definitely revealed our weaknesses in terms of diagnostics and even preparedness. Thank you so much for reiterating on that. And I wanted to ask you a question to then say, how will the center help the country better respond to future public health crisis? But now, with you having mentioned that, I guess I can sleep comfortably at night knowing that the newly launched center will then help us in the future. We can sleep assured.
100%. I think with the trainers that we currently have on board, and with all the specialized skills that within the trainers that we have and the advanced technologies, we've just placed the equipment, and they are extremely advanced technologies in next generation sequencing, in Sanger sequencing applications. So this is something that students from especially under-resourced universities can
Mm-hmm,
now
mm-hmm.
come in, have hands-on training, be able to work with the machines, be able to make mistakes and correct themselves. And I think it's also important to note that if you look, you mentioned diagnostics, and if you look at our diagnostic laboratories and the equipment that's placed in these diagnostic laboratories, most of that equipment comes from Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Oh yeah,
So
oh
we're
yeah.
already getting graduates ready for laboratories like NICD, NHLS, the private companies like PathCare and AMPath. So when they are marketable to these companies and are already able to be absorbed into these diagnostic laboratories.
And you know what? Before I take in the issue of curriculum, practical training, and even the students or the journey that the students will embark on, let me take a last question. Then I'll take a quick ad break, and then we'll come to then decide that. The name includes both advanced training and innovative research. Definitely suggests the dual functions. If you can explain how the center will then balance training with then scientific with actual scientific innovation.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you asked that question. Not many people have picked up on that actually.
Yeah.
But if we consider the CATIR program, we consider it as a two-pronged approach.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, which we've been sort of advertising a lot for and is our key initiative, is for the capacity development.
Mm-hmm.
And that's within, which we'll discuss after the break, but within the 5-week training program that we have. We are well aware thereafter, if students go back to their academic institutes, these advanced pieces of equipment may not be there.
Yeah.
And they may not have the ability to work in those settings, although they may have beautiful projects that have been set up, and heads of departments may have research initiatives that they want to now carry out. Unfortunately, that equipment may not be there. So this is where the innovative research comes in. We want to establish an innovative hub where academic institutions can come through, complete their research at the hub, at the CATIR laboratories,
Sure.
and then carry that research back with them to translate on a community level. So it will not only be for training, but for then academic institutions and departments to come through, complete their research, and take that back with them.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 10 minutes before the hour, 8 o'clock, in conversation with us, Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who's now the senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, and we are speaking the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. So you know what? We're going to take a very quick ad break. When we come back from that, we'll continue with this conversation, and when we do, we'll focus on the curriculum, the practical training, and the student journey. We'll then close it off with the opportunities that are there for graduates and for young people in South Africa, because eventually that is what we aim to do, to plug a graduate, to plug someone young with an opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Groundbreakers Plug a Graduate. Don't go anywhere. I take a very quick ad break. I'll be back after this. Guess what? Ka. A ke itse why, Ju. Didn't wa bone ke Satan, wa bone iragala metleng.
Only when you are presenting on a normal basis.
A iragala there. Why, Ju? Satan one lega. Kore a ke rapele ke tishitse, ne? Mm.
Even when a lady break, I think
Mm. Araway. Sure. 10 minutes before the hour 9 o'clock. Oh, 8 o'clock, Chief. Just relax. We just arrived. We just arrived. 10 minutes before the hour 8 o'clock, you are still listening to TUTFM 96.2. And this is the Groundbreakers. Remember, this is Plug a Graduate. We are speaking to Dr. Pritika Ramharack. We are speaking in the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. Doctor, let's get into what I said we'll get into the curriculum, the practical training, and even the student journey there. One thing I know for a fact, launching a facility is one thing. Making it operational and impactful is another. So now, because the center was launched today, when will the center begin its full scale operations, and how many students are expected in the first take?
Yes, so we're looking to take our first cohort by the end of this year, with the goal at the moment is to have the first cohort come through the 1st of October.
Mhm.
And so we'll have our 5-week training program, and then we'll be able in the new year take on more cohorts moving forward every 5 weeks. And based on this, we're looking at an annual um, cohort completion rate of at least 150 students per year at this point. But again, as we said, we will adapt based on academic needs. And if we need to slow down the training program, we'll do that if need be. But right now we're looking at least 150 students annually.
So the first intake will be in October this year,
Yes.
and annually you're looking into a cohort of 150, right?
Yes, so we'll break it down. So the maximum number of participants that we take at a time will be
Mhm.
20.
Mhm.
But we'll be running that every 5 weeks. So that is what we're looking at.
Definitely got it. And you spoke of academic needs. Let's speak about the requirements for a particular program, right? Because students always ask, but what is the requirements for that particular program? Who's then eligible to apply, and what academic background is then needed to participate?
Yes, so with the background that students require, right now we're targeting MSc and PhD students, particularly because they have a research project already in place, and they have the freedom to take a 5-week
Leave or
time
something.
out
Of,
to
yeah,
come and train through. The issue with sort of structured programs like honors programs, it is much more difficult to take 5 weeks out of your structured program or
sure.
your structured honors curriculum to now come through for the course that we're offering. So right now we're looking at MSc and PhD, and eventually will consider taking on graduates and potentially linking them up with industry partners thereafter. So that is the plan. What would students require and their background? So we are particularly starting off, and I think this is a good entry point to what the 5-week program entails, but we're
Mm.
starting off with a week of rudiments and basic laboratory skills. So at this point, students will need at least some sort of biological or molecular science background. I think that's quite important. There also needs to be some sort of interest in the field. More so, our program is geared towards the genetics and genomics background. So if you're doing plant science, for example, or agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
wastewater, microbial research, these are all fields
Yeah,
that
yeah.
can feed into genomic expression. So that is definitely something, the background that you would at least need to have to come through to our program. I must say, looking at tailored and optimization of the curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
we've actually had key stakeholder engagements already with various institutions, including University of Limpopo, University of Venda, Sefako Mokgatso Health Sciences University, and Tshwane University of Technology as well, where we've identified that we need to tailor the program based on student needs and not just a
Mm-hmm.
one-size-fits-all approach.
And you there, speaking of molecular science, I was reading one report after I got a notion that I'll be speaking to you. I was reading something. I found that molecular science is definitely a specialized field, and it made me think, what hands-on skills and technologies will students be trained on throughout this program?
Yeah, so as I said, we're looking at a very sort of holistic approach to the training
Mm-hmm,
program.
mm-hmm.
So for the 5 weeks, the first week is going to be basic laboratory skills. So we'll be looking at pipetting, so accurate pipetting. And I know sometimes we think that pipetting is quite an easy exercise to do, but we've been trained by specialists, and we translating that information through, and there is the correct way of doing pipetting. So we're going to start off with basic pipetting. We'll move on to preparation of buffers and pHing of buffers. We'll also do some calculations, the basic C1, V1 calculations. And so during that first week, we'll almost get all students at the same starting point. So if we need to spend more time with specific students and stay later during that week, just to get everybody by the end of that week at a stage where they're able to do a standard curve, prepare a buffer, and pH that buffer accurately. And I think those are the unspoken heroes of science, being able to pipette accurately and being able to do calculations. If you are able to carry out those techniques accurately, application-based work is simplistic. If you have to run a polymerase chain reaction and look at gene amplification, that is such a simple task to do if you are able to pipette accurately. And if you want to look at protein expression through Western blots or ELISAs, again, if you can create buffers accurately and you can do your calculations correctly, you will breeze through that aspect. So I must say,
Mm-hmm.
having these basic skills are very necessary, which will be done in the first week. In week 2, it gets more intensive, where we'll be going through conventional polymerase chain reaction and quantitative polymerase chain reaction. We then move on to Sanger sequencing and next generation sequencing.
And you speaking to people that know nothing about science here in the studio. When you then speak, basic lab skills, basic pipetting, I'm looking at Lisette as she's tapping on his phone, trying to understand what is the basic lab pipetting. I'm also saying, no, that's proper science. Definitely is gonna
Yeah,
be a very,
so
yeah.
easy way of considering it is taking, if you look at water, you're taking minute quantities of water, but accurate quantities of water at a time.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So
No, we
that's
learned
that, and you're
something.
just transferring it
No,
through. So that's the pipetting.
definitely learned something. We can stroll around the Arcadia campus and keep on saying, guys, let's get ready for pipetting. And people will then definitely just think, no, these people know something about science. But let's come in terms of lab management, which is rare but very vital skill set. Will students also get training in terms of managing lab environments effectively so?
Yes, so that was what made our program specifically unique,
Mm-hmm.
where we did not only concentrate on hands-on experience in the laboratory, but also a soft skills development
Oh,
aspect.
yes.
So we realized, to be a holistic professional, you not only need to work in the lab, but you need to know how to work with people.
Sure,
You need
sure.
to be able to manage budgets. If you have a spreadsheet, you need to know what to order, when to order it, when to service equipment, and how to manage that, as well as doing your general laboratory work.
Sure.
I think another huge aspect that we are including is grant writing. And we now realize postgraduate students, when they're applying to foundations like the National Research Foundation for grants, or if they are early career investigators that are applying for their own research grants, we'd like to at least have them have a structure and know how to put a budget together accurately,
Mm-hmm.
so that they have a greater chance of getting funding and moving forward in their career.
And let
And sorry.
sorry for cutting you so abruptly there, Dr. Ramharack. I wanted to then take you on that particular point as you were still mentioning it, to then say, I get the sense that the program doesn't really stop at science, as it includes personal and professional development. Why was it really important to then integrate, should I say, leadership, communication, and soft skills in the curriculum? Was there a particular trend or behavior that you mentioned, you then observed, that was like, we really need to integrate this particular components also?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we had key stakeholder meetings, and this was actually brought to our attention by academic
Hmm.
institutions and as well as industry partners that we've had over the decades. So this is definitely something at the South African Medical Research Council. We also have a research capacity development unit, and we specialize in providing grants and funding
Hmm.
to academic institutions. And this was also something that we've realized that we just need to hone in on specific skills. And I think just as a young scientist in the field
Yeah.
as well, these were things that I never went through. I was never taught how to manage a laboratory setting. You have to learn while you're already in a job. And why make the next generation of scientists' lives difficult if we can already instill those skills in them before they even walk into a job?
Sure, definitely understandable. Definitely understand. But I, I always like to ask this particular question to say, uh, some programs offer only theory while others go deeper. Is there a mentorship, job shadowing, or even an internship element within the facility?
Yes, so within CATIR we have there's various arms that we have
Mhm.
at the moment. So in the future, in early next year, actually, we'll be having cohorts that may link up to industry partners, and by industry partners, I mean like Thermo Fisher Scientific, the big companies like Inkaba Biotech, and these companies will take on our competent staff
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
rather our competent participants, and they will be able to join as interns for a specific time frame where
Yeah.
they'll be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
job shadow, learn the ins and outs, and thereafter have more of a chance of getting absorbed by these companies.
And while we're still there, timeframes are often unclear for such centers or even such curriculums. How long will be the training period be, and other phases or modules that the participants need to complete?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have an intensive 5-week program, and then we have additional specialized modules. So again, for these specialized modules, the specialized modules are 2-week modules,
2 weeks.
and the modules that we will be offering is aseptic techniques. So if you're working within a cell culture environment and you need to just hone in on your skills with cell culture, that is a module that we'll be offering. We also will be looking at protein expressions, so Western blots and ELISAs, so just looking at protein work, and then cheminformatics as well. So part of my specialized skills, we'll be looking at how to work computationally to establish in new inhibitors, or to delve deeper into the computational chemistry of drug discovery. So those are the specialized modules. And as I mentioned, we'll also be having the soft skills modules, or the soft skill module for all our alumni that come through.
Speaking of alumni, are there options for continuous learning or returning alumni to then upskill further?
Yes, so through our sister program, it's something that I'm extremely proud of.
Mhm.
We've actually now put in the phase of the trainee now being a trainer. And that is something we are extremely proud of. We actually have one of our graduates from a sister program, the
Mhm.
CSSF program,
Oh.
Confidence Mokobane, and now he is the head trainer at the
Ooh.
CATIR laboratories. So we've put it into play, and he's in a sort of leadership role now, and he started off as a graduate
Mhm.
coming through to one of our training curriculums. He was employed as a trainer, and we've now moved him over here to the CATIR program. So we are very excited to say that there is definitely opportunities for a trainee to become a trainer.
Shoo. Now that's beautiful stuff, ladies and gentlemen. 6 minutes after the hour, 8 o'clock. Doctor, I want to take a very quick, should I say quick or even a little bit longer ad break than the last time, so that you get yourself a cup of coffee. It's cold this particular weather, and we also pay our bills. But when we come back from that, I want to look into the regional reach and the institutional impact. Then we'll definitely close off this conversation with the pathways and opportunities that are there for graduates. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, those who are listening, rather by streaming. We are live on Facebook. We are TUTFM 962. X, TikTok, Instagram. You can follow us there. We're definitely TUTFM underscore 962. You can send in your thoughts, your messages, your comments, or if you have any questions that you want to pose to the doctor herself, you can send in on 012 382 9257. That is 012 382 9257. And remember, in conversation with us, Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who's a senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, and tonight, or rather today, they had launched a new center, that is the Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research. Researcher, do you want to be a scientist? Do you want to be part of the curriculum? Do you want to mix things in the laboratory? Want to wear the white dust coat, a pair of glasses, with some hand gloves there, nitrogen and all of those things, mixing them in a cup?
I've always wanted to be an angel.
An angel?
Yeah, they're wearing white coats.
Oh, Doctor, don't go anywhere. We'll definitely be bigger after this. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a very quick ad break. We'll come back and finish that conversation. 15 minutes after the hour, 8 o'clock, you are still listening to TUTFM 96.2. We amplifying voices, empowering lives, and Renamela Sparapara. On top of that, a beautiful song. Umanji Muloi. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still listening to the groundbreakers. Plug graduate Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who's a senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council. We're speaking in the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. Dr. Ramharack, you're still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Before I continue with my line of questioning, I wanna there's a question coming in from one, should I say listener or a viewer? Because we are streaming both on Facebook and also on YouTube. But there's a question coming in from one listener and viewer, Me Pusha Zavara. They're asking, how will this initiative benefit communities struggling with clean water?
So, at the moment, I think I'm not an expert to answer that sort of question. I do know that there are Thermo Fisher Scientific and the SAMRC will be training in skills that may assist with wastewater management. But specifically with clean water, I don't think that I'm an expert that will be able to answer that right now.
Sure. Me Posha Zavana, I'm sure you got that particular answer. As time goes on, Dr. Ramharack will then have the knowledge because you'll be working with different scientists there, doctor. They'll definitely give you some knowledge to then answer when we then pose such questions. But let's continue with my line of questioning.
Polelo, can I stop you for a minute then? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure. So just to also to add to the question, at the South African Medical Research Council, we
Yeah.
have a specific unit called the the Environmental Health Research Unit. And this particular unit is looking at exactly that, looking at communities and sort of water and sanitation in these communities. So I have to say, just to answer your viewer,
Yeah.
we do have units that are working on this particular question at the moment, but not within the context of CATIR.
Yeah. No, it's very understandable. There's a lot of issues going on in terms of water scarcity within the country. You might then take a look at how countries like Japan are making sure that people have water, but we'll then engage with some of those scientists. I was then saying, as we continue with my line of questioning, I know the fact that the center is based in Pretoria, but science should and must be and is inclusive. How accessible is the program to students from surrounding universities that are beyond Gauteng? We know for TUT and UNISA, this is their home ground. They'll definitely have a joy with it. But what about students that are coming in from beyond Gauteng who might want to be part of the program?
So I must say that we're very proud that the CATIR program supports both equity and inclusivity, and we're particularly focusing on previously under-resourced institutions at this given point. So as I mentioned, at least for the CATIR Pretoria training initiative, we're looking at students from University of Venda, University of Limpopo,
Sure.
as well as Sefako Makatsu University, and eventually moving down the East Coast to and North Coast to University of Zululand as well. And I think what I forgot to mention previously is that this course is freely available for postgraduate students, and through our funding partners such as the DSTI and DOH, we've actually put together funding for participants' travel, accommodation,
Ooh.
and daily subsistence, so
Sure.
that students are not financially burdened and that they can fully commit to the costs when they come through to Pretoria. So we have
Sure.
taken
Yeah.
that into account.
That's definitely beautiful. I have to give it to you. A round of applause, Lisaja. Can I get a horn for that? Sure. Yeah, no, that's dope. That's beautiful. But also, let me take you on a point there. Let's speak about some of the students who can't relocate or travel frequently. Will there be hybrid or online learning opportunities to then accommodate those students in terms of rural, deep rural, and underserved areas?
Yes, so some of the soft
Mhm.
skills developments, such as the research integrity module and even the chem informatics module, because it is a computational model, we can offer those virtually. But as I mentioned, part of the uniqueness of CATIR is that it's going to be hands-on training,
Oh yeah.
so that students are able to come into a lab and work with pipettes and work with next generation sequencing machines. It's equipment that they would not previously have access to. So as much as we would like to host virtual modules where possible,
Yeah, yeah.
we would like to keep it hands-on as much as possible as well.
Definitely understandable and definitely true. Now, with ish, yeah, this one is very tricky, but I do hope you because this country is facing very high unemployment rate, right? It's very high. It's skyrocketing. I think we're number one in the world. I was looking at the report just yesterday, number one in the world. Now, with the youth unemployment being so high, and especially us, among us graduates, break it down if you can on how this initiative then offers, real pathways to employment in the industries that each individual will be in, or even further studies.
Yeah, so I think for within the biological, I can answer for the biological and
No,
molecular science
no
graduates
problem.
specifically,
Yeah.
because that is where what we geared toward looking at.
Hmm.
I think that is what you exactly said now, and the unemployment rate is exactly why we have this program in place,
Hmm.
so that we can ensure that graduates and postgraduate students become more marketable,
Yeah.
so that so when they do apply for jobs, and trust me, there are jobs out there. That's definitely something that is out there. And if not in industry placements, but rather in academic placements. But we want to make a graduate marketable and employable. And that's the whole point of this holistic program, is so that they can eventually walk into a job. And
Sure.
again,
Sure.
that's where our industry partners come into play, where after they've completed our courses, they can then be absorbed even as an intern, as a starting initiative to prove themselves over a stipulated time frame, and then be absorbed into these industry placements.
Sure. And you know what? I know for a fact, and I'm speaking coming in from a perspective of a graduate to then say, we often complain about the lack of direction after school. I mean, when I finished studying journalism, I thought I'll then just be, one of those journalists, but only to find out that there's more, there's broader information, there's broader ways one can then take. I want to understand, how will the center then support young people in terms of then mapping out a long-term career, a long career plan, if I then say so?
Yes, I have to say, so that is part of our goal moving forward, is to
Hmm.
offer mentorship. So as trainers and as our trainers start growing, we will follow candidates through and follow participants through even after they've graduated. If they need advice on career development and mentorship throughout their journey, we'll be available for that at any given time. So
Hmm.
I think that's, again, it's not just get a certificate of completion and then leave the program and then do what you must with your life. There will be constant
Hmm.
follow-ups. We
Hmm.
will meet with alumni once a year.
Hmm.
We will be able to mentor them, and that can be done virtually as well.
Hmm.
Thankfully, through all these sort of tools like Teams and Zoom, we're very lucky to now be able to mentor virtually. And
Hmm.
that's something that we have definitely discussed with Thermo Fisher Scientific and is definitely on the cards moving forward.
Hmm. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Ladies and gentlemen, 23 minutes or 24 after the hour, 8 o'clock. We're getting closer to that end of our conversation, but we cannot come to an end if we haven't spoken about the opportunities that are there and graduate pathways. Doctor, I'll take one last ad break, and when we come back from that, we are no longer stopping. We're hitting the heart of the matter straight to the point. But before we take that ad break, let's pick something coming in from your own perspective, if you can, to then say, we need African-led solutions in terms of science and healthcare. with you and the work that you have done and with the work that you will continue to do you then envision this center one day becoming a regional hub for scientific excellence across the continent?
Yes, so that is definitely a part of our goals for the future. Right now, we just want to have more attainable goals, such as just getting successful cohorts completed.
Mm-hmm.
But our long-term goals is to definitely become a regional hub and eventually move into product development so that we don't have to rely on other countries
Sure.
for consumables and chemicals. And that's the great part about having an industry partner, is that we can retain skills within South Africa and be able to create our own products and to have um, sort of chemicals produced in country, so we do not have the same issue that we had 5 years ago.
Sure, definitely. You know what? Let me then remind people that in conversation with us, Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who's now a senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, and we're speaking the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. Definitely send in your thoughts, your comments, questions to the doctor herself, if you may, on 012-382-9257, 012-382-9257. On Facebook, we are live. We're also live on YouTube. We are at TUTFM 96.2 on Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram. We are TUTFM_962. Beautiful conversation and a beautiful insights that we're getting. And if you might then think, when is the issue? When is the intake taking place? I'll tell you that's October. The first rollout will take it, and coming in from next year, once everything is settled in, the center will take 150 students, 20 per week. You definitely have to have your masters and be a PhD candidate. You can't be like me, with an honors type of thing, because I'm still busy with a lot of work. But eventually, that is what you need to have. And the first week, they'll definitely have a holistic approach. They'll look into the basic lab skills, basic pipetting, Liseja. You got that? Basic pipetting. Doctor, let's take one last ad break. When we come back from that, we then hit the nail on the head. We speak opportunities that are there for graduates, the pathways that they could definitely take. Don't go anywhere. You can go add the milk in your coffee if you are drinking coffee. We'll definitely be back after this. We pay our bills, and when we come back from that, we definitely hit everything that needs to be hit. Don't go anywhere. Sure. Doctor?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
don't no
here.
no no don't stress. We are going in a bit. I'm sure you are stressed to then say how. Where have those gentlemen have gone? We were still fixing some issues, but we are definitely going in. Give us the last, should I say, 30 seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds. Then we're going
Sure,
back. Sure.
100%. No problem.
But before we go in, any aspects or elements you feel that we have not touched on and you'd like to touch base on?
At the moment, I think we are good.
Mhm.
I think the main goal was to just get out the target group and sort of the that it's a freely available course. So we've got those key elements out. So I'm happy
Okay,
with that.
sure, no problem. We'll
Yep,
finish up just in a bit. Let me go back on it.
sure,
Sure.
sure.
Twenty-five minutes before the hour 9 o'clock, you asked the listening to TUTFM 96.2. We amplifying voices, empowering lives, and this is the Groundbreakers. And on the Groundbreakers, every Wednesday from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, we have what you call a plug a graduate. You know it. You definitely have to be sitting in your home, driving, or doing, or even watching us live. You don't have to be doing anything else besides being on this particular platform every Wednesday. And if I get a call from your mother, your grandmother, and says, no, shunya monna le khoa shu fa sebata wa kitimi kitima ka montle ka mo is not listening to this particular program, definitely going to have a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, in conversation, Dr. Pritika Ramharack, who is now the senior scientist at the South African Medical Research Council, was speaking the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. And now, we're coming into the close or the end of our conversation, but we cannot end it all without asking about the opportunities that are there for graduates. Doctor, I want to start it off here to then say we spoke about how CATIR will then assist the graduates with the job placement, internships, and even startup support. But many of our listeners are TUT graduates wondering how to access these real world opportunities. Let's start it off here, then we'll go forward. Everyone who's listening,
Yes.
how can they then begin to engage and even apply to CATIR?
Yes, so at TUT we've actually spoken to heads of departments as well as the research office for postgraduate students. So if you are a keen graduate or MSc or PhD student and you would like to join this program, please get hold of your research office. At the
Mhm.
moment, we're going via research offices, and eventually we will put out a call for new graduates or new participants in the new year.
Mhm.
So that's something I could say. You can also follow us on our social media pages. So it's the SAMRC and Thermo Fisher Scientific social media pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as our official websites to find out how you could apply
Mhm.
moving forward.
Definitely understandable. And now let's speak about students who, didn't study pure sciences but are then curious about transitioning into research. Can those students like from related fields like maybe nursing, biotechnology, or even pharmacy apply or even attend this particular course?
I'm so excited that you asked that question, Polelo. It's actually something that I wanted to point out. I think within STEM itself, if you
Mhm.
are within STEM, which is your science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, I think being able to pivot is extremely important. You shouldn't feel because you've graduated with a specific degree that you have to stay in that field. I think in the times of AI and sort of integration of multidisciplinary research,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to pivot and change directions in your field at any given time. I'm a good example of that. So I was very much in wet bench work. So in the laboratory at during my master's and getting lab work done, and during my PhD, I completely pivoted into a computational research project. And now I come out with both those specializations that we can carry forward. So I think there's never an opportunity to say that you are stuck in a field.
Mm-hmm.
Another good example is if you are in computer science or cybersecurity, there's now you can move into the science of looking at research ethics. If you've done a law degree, you can move into the science stream.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in core science and wet bench is not for you, you can move into project development and you can move into the funding streams. And I think being able to pivot is extremely important. Another good example is robotics. So we've now seen there was an article recently where
Mm-hmm.
a surgery was done with 90% done by a robot.
Mm.
And if you are in the engineering field and you have a keen interest in the medical and healthcare field, that's something you can move into. As I said, if you're finding that, my advice would be, if you're finding that
Mm-hmm.
you are not securing a job in the field that you're currently in, never be afraid to pivot into a new domain.
And with you saying that, let me then take you on this one to then say, I guess at this given moment of time, young people need more than just hope. They need direction. If you were then say, you would then say, what are the top three emerging fields or job sectors in the sciences that students should be preparing for, given the fact that we are in the age of technology and data?
Yes, so I have to say, data science is is a field that you can never go wrong in. You can end up in a completely different domain. You don't even have to. You can end up in an insurance company. You can end up in a bank, or you could end up in the science in at the SAMRC, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
data science, having that skill in your pocket is something that you can use at any given time. I think to ignore artificial intelligence would be something that we should never overlook at this point. As much as there's so much of concerns and ethical concerns around artificial intelligence, it is also something, if applied correctly, can really be used to benefit healthcare in
Mm-hmm.
our country and in African countries as a whole. So artificial intelligence and that being machine learning and programming, those are, if you are still within a degree, if you're still a graduate listening to this show, I would still suggest maybe considering a short course in programming that's offered online, just to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see what it's like and to gauge whether that would be something that you'd like to do moving forward. And again, as I mentioned, if you moving in the engineering field, if you consider robotics for healthcare, that's also particularly important. And before anything else, and before I move forward,
Mm-hmm.
I think um, education and educators are very necessary in our country. We see it at a secondary, at a primary, and a tertiary level, where we have educators that um, there's such a scarcity of educators or competent
Mm-hmm.
educators at the
Sure, true.
moment. So after you've graduated, there's always an option to do a PGCE and then get into the education field if you're passionate about that.
Shoo.
So there are many different options. And as I said, you're welcome. If there's anyone listening to the show that really it requires some direction or some mentorship or just needs to have a chat, I'm definitely available to assist with that.
Definitely, you will be getting a lot of emails and calls after this particular show because there's a lot of people that are listening and tuning in. And thank you out for pointing the issue of PGCE and going into that type of direction. But also, something that I should not forget, Many students want to start their own companies or even health initiatives. Will there be any training support for entrepreneurship or provide pathways into, science startup spaces?
Yes, so at CATIR, not at the moment.
Hmm.
As I said, our initial goal is to just upskill the current scientists that we have.
Yeah.
However, based on the innovation hub and sort of the innovative research that we have moving forward, there's always an option for entrepreneurship skills to start off spin-off companies, for example. So if you have a research project that you are getting to a point where you can see a patent coming out of it, or if there's some sort of IP that you can move forward with, even as a student, that is something you can take up with your supervisor, and then we'll be happy to guide via Thermo Fisher Scientific some entrepreneurship skills to be able to start up a spin-off company and have those products available commercially.
Something I cannot forget, Dr. Ramharack, there it's the networking, because networking is a game changer for many careers. I understand, or let me take your point to ask you, how would the center promote collaboration, connection, and even more exposure to professionals?
Yes, so that is something I think that is very close to our hearts as
Hmm.
well. Initially, just amongst students, that is why we're trying to mix students from different universities
Universities, yeah.
to yes, so that they when they come to the course, they'll be able to integrate and understand what other universities are offering. We can also have career days moving forward where our alumni can or we can go to universities and have career days, which I think is extremely important just to get the word out there of what career opportunities there are moving forward.
And I'm about to let you go 15 minutes before the hour, 9 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, you are still listening to TUTFM 96.2, and I'm saying we are empowering lives and amplifying voices. Remember, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. We are TUTFM 96.2, X, TikTok, Instagram, TUTFM underscore 962. Remember, you can send in your questions, your comments on the number 012 382 9257. That is 012 382 9257. And tonight we're speaking in the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research by SAMRC. But doctor, before I would let you go, let me take you on those three last questions. Failure and discouragement are part of many students' realities. It was for me, it was for you at some point, it was for research, it is for everyone. What advice would you then give to a graduate who then feels stuck and hopeless in terms of their scientific career journey?
So it is a very tricky question. I think sometimes as a student and a graduate, when you are faced with a failure, trying to find a route out of that failure can be very tricky, especially when you have pressures, financial pressures and family pressures, and it does become very difficult.
Mhm.
But it is just one step that you just need to make. And once you make that step, you'll realize there's a whole field out there that you can run through thereafter.
Mhm.
So I think that failure is part of everybody's journey, be it in your career, be it in your tertiary education. At some point, everyone faces it. But being able, and I think that's what I mentioned earlier, being able to pivot and to be able to say, okay, maybe I shouldn't be in this career path. Maybe I can change my career path,
Mhm.
or change at least the direction and be in the same domain. That is something I think um, ad- being able to adapt to a situation is extremely important. And there's never, I don't think it's failure, to be honest. I think
Mhm.
the word failure sometimes is a bit heavy. I think it's just an obstacle that you need to get through.
Definitely, definitely understandable. And then when you spoke of alumni, I should have taken this question that given moment of time, but it then pounces back on my mind. Let me ask you this: sometimes alumni and even industry leaders often want to give back. I want to understand: are there ways for professionals to then contribute? Maybe through mentorship, guest lectures, even funding.
Oh, most definitely. Especially in this instance, when you consider funding, we are looking for further partners. and conduit funding for this program. With regard to guest lectures, that would be especially, as I said, that's maybe a gap that we need to fill moving forward in the entrepreneurship skills. If anyone is keen on offering guest lectures, please contact us and we'll be happy to take that forward. If you're in the science field and you now have these products available, or if you've moved through from a student to a within the commercial field, I think definitely that's something we're looking for partners for.
10 minutes before the hour 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, I bring this conversation to end on this note. But before I let you go, Doctor, the project has a long-term goals that go beyond any single group of students, right? Or even any single group of students. What legacy do you hope CATIR will then leave for science, education, and youth in South Africa? And I'll let you go for this evening.
Yes, so I think there's one line that will summarize all of what you said, and our long-term goal is to build or upskill the next generation of African scientists for Africa. And I think it summarizes it absolutely beautifully, because it's everything that Africa needs in one sentence. So building the next generation of African scientists for Africa.
Sure. What an enlightening and inspiring conversation, wouldn't you say, Liseja? And a very massive thank you to you, Dr. Pritika Ramharack, for then, joining us tonight and helping us understand how the newly launched Center for Advanced Training and Innovative Research will then create new pathways for young scientists, researchers, and graduates within the country. And from hands-on molecular training to then professional development, it is clear this initiative is not only about science, it is about empowering the next generation to then drive change, innovate locally, and build resilient careers that serve our communities. I want to thank you so much for making time to speak with me this evening. And I do hope this is not the end of our conversations. We'll continue conversing more. And I do know for a fact that you will get emails coming in from graduates who want to get assistance in terms of career direction. But with that being said, thank you so much. And please do have yourself a lovely evening.
Thank you so much, Polelo, and thanks to Lisecha as well in the background. I think it's you have a beautiful program, and we really hope to have a chat very soon on our journey, and for you to follow us through and through our successes through this program. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a student, graduate, or had a curious mind, definitely let tonight's conversation be a spark, an invitation to explore opportunities, pursue excellence, and plug into your potential. Definitely join us again next week, Wednesday, on Plug a Graduate, same time, 7 to 9 p.m. right here on TUTFM 96.2, where we keep connecting you to careers, skills, and the stories that shape your future. And you wanted to say something, Chairman?
This is the first guest to ever thank me. Thank you very much. Let's sit behind. Yeah.
Definitely. So keep dreaming, keep learning, and keep rising. We take a quick break. When you come back from that, we'll then close it off and allow Say Harris to come over and take over this hot seat.